All right, my final award, Peyton, and I'll unniche it up a little bit. I'll get more star power here. This is the Silver Surfer Your Planet is Marked for Death Award, and it's going to our world changing as we know it, as Travis Hunter goes into his first training camp, and we all determine what the heck is this guy's training camp going to look like. I got a Twitter notification just this evening that it was confirmed to Adam Schefter, I think, that Hunter is going to be flip-flopping between offense and defense throughout camp. We'll see exactly what that looks like. I'm very fascinated in just what his day-to-day looks like. Does he have an offense day, a defense day, offense morning, defense afternoon, meetings on offense, field on defense, and then flip-flop it the next day? However that breaks down, I'm really interested in. But more importantly, I'm interested in where he lines up and what his actual role is on both sides of the ball. So when the Jags drafted Hunter back in April, I thought it was the perfect landing spot because neither at corner nor receiver does he have to be the quote unquote first option in terms of the like big body, take the brunt of the biggest assignments. I don't have to be the big X receiver downfield. That's Brian Thomas Jr. I don't have to be the number one corner covering the best guy. That can be Tyson Campbell. But Hunter has some leeway to now go wherever he fits best. Is that a slot receiver? Is that a nickel corner? Is that dime defender? Is that the other outside corner? Is that an outside wide receiver? We don't know yet. Wherever he and the coaches kind of deem best fit, he can go to because the flexibility that having a number one guy on both sides affords. So during OTAs, Hunter practiced mostly on offense, very rarely on defense. I think it was like one session on the last day of minicamp. Did he play any defense? But I think the report that I was reading, that was mostly thinking, hey, he needs a lot more refinement on offense, right? We know his route running isn't the crispest. We know the way and when he like flashes his hands isn't always like super late or super well nuanced. He's kind of just the get it and go kind of guy at receiver. Whereas corner, he's super refined. So like he just didn't need that much work. But training camp, we're actually getting ready for the season. So where are we going to implement him? What do you think is both best for Jacksonville? And then what do you think they'll ultimately end up doing with Travis Hunter?
I think they're one and the same for me, which is I do think he plays noticeably more snaps on offense than he does defense.
Mm,
While I like some of the things that a guy like Parker Washington did, towards the end of the year last year, he is not on the same planet as Travis Hunter as far as a wide receiver talent. Um, Whereas, and that would be like for the the starting. I guess depending on where you want to move Travis Hunter, really. But like, point is as like the quote unquote wide receiver two in the offense. Depending on where you want to move him. Whereas, if you look on the defensive side of the ball, where Travis would be playing, which would be outside corner, likely opposite Tyson Campbell, it's they have Jerry Jones, who is good in the slot, who they are moving outside in year two, which is interesting. That or they're moving Jordan Lewis outside, which that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. Um, that being said, like Jerry Jones was good in the slot, showed a lot of signs of being a guy who you can have as at the very least a nickel, but there's not a whole lot of track record of him as an outside corner based on 1 year of tape. So I guess with that said, like I would much rather survive with Jerry and Jones outside as like an early in the season experiment and kind of bring in Travis as needed as some kind of like reprieve as the secondary outside corner than have to rely upon a Parker Washington to be a dynamic playmaker on offense. We and just have Travis Hunter be only like a small factor on the offense. I think that the best case scenario for all parties involved and what I think is most likely going to happen is, like I said, Travis Hunter plays 75 to 80% of snaps on offense, moonlights on defense, in cases where, Jerry and Jones may or may not be as equipped to handle whatever the matchup is.
And in that scenario, defensively, it can even be okay if he's the dime defender. I don't know how much they were in dime last year, but obviously new coach staff. Jones moves into the slot and Hunter takes the other outside spot for those plays. I do think that makes sense. I want to look up because Diami Brown, we mentioned earlier, look at him two mentions on this podcast,
Yeah,
is the big free agent acquisition for them on offense in 2023,
big is a
primarily out
stretch, but okay.
wide. 2024, he was their big free agent acquisition. Um, yeah, I mean he's an outside guy. So would you put Hunter in the slot on offense? Because yeah, you mentioned
I
like compared to Parker Washington, like that's a slot guy.
yeah, I mean, because of what I mean, because De'Ami Brown is kind of you can't really move him around on the offense at
Hmm.
all. I do think that Travis is malleable in what he's able to do. Like he
Hmm.
does win not only like in true athleticism and speed, but he does like he is a true separator as well. And so like I would be fine putting him in the slot because you could still win. He can still win at that level, like inside. If you're running, if you're running Diami on like screens and then having Travis Hunter run these like corner routes, so to
Hmm.
speak, to kind of like
Hmm.
get in space and be like be really both man and zone. I think he's capable of doing um,
Yeah.
from the slot. Even if it's not kind of like his home base, I'm sure that it can work.
And I mean they'll get plenty of value out of that. Cohen and the Bucks last year were 78% 11
Yeah.
personnel, so they're gonna have plenty of opportunity to do that. So I came to a different conclusion, and it's one I had pre-draft. And I mean, even so during the season, during the college football season last year, it was he's going to be a corner first and some a few plays on offense. You get him some screens, you get him a couple. If it's third and long, you need another step. Like you can do that. Maybe he develops as a receiver. And then as we got closer to the draft, we all just like for fun, we're like, yeah, he's fun as a receiver. Let's make him a receiver. Um, and because no corner, ever gets drafted in the top five. But now that we're kind of back, we're here and we're looking at the depth chart, and I mean, neither of these groups are very deep in terms of talent. But you mentioned the defense just kind of being messy, right? Like last year they get Darnell Savage, who traditionally in his career was best in the slot. And they also sign or draft Jerry and Jones in the same offseason, who ends up playing a lot of slot, played slot all of college, by the way. I went back and looked. He all slot in college for Jerry and Jones. And then Jordan Lewis, who's always been a slot corner as well. And so you feel like you have this hole where like Travis Hunter would slide right into that other outside corner spot, and you let Jones and you let Lewis and you let Savage all battle it out for the slot corner spot. I don't really care because I think Hunter is a special difference maker as an individual talent on defense at corner. The question is though, and why this was a fun one to compare to the Packers one, is how much do you need that, right? Versus just like five or six smart dudes that are tough back there. And if you think who's the defensive coordinator now, Anthony Campanelli, coming from Green Bay, if you oh gosh, do you trust that?
That's interesting. Wow.
Uh, especially Darnell Savage. Last time a Green Bay coach counted on him
Yeah.
for a lot. That didn't work out so well. This is tough.
Yeah.
Um, because here's the breakdown. So they were 19th on offense, the Jags last year in terms of EPA per play, and 31st on defense. You bring in Liam Cohen, who seems like offensive multiplier, right? Like should be able to like fix this run game, turn this mediocre talent offensive line into something useful, change this pass game around. You think you have something here. How much could Liam Cohen do if Hunter is, let's say, wide receiver four? If your main deployment is Brian Thomas Jr. at the X, Diamond Brown as the Z, and you let Parker Washington just kind of be your slot for a year. Um, and then Travis Hunter is solidifies that outside corner spot. You got two good outside corners. You let those guys battle out for the nickel and the slot and the free safety spot, or the nickel, the dime, and the free safety spot. Or do you throw everything you have at the offense? You just say, Travis, you're full time offensive player. If we're in 12, we'll put you on the outside to run these sorts of plays. If we're once we're in 11, we'll put you in the slot. You're a full time offensive guy, and You're a dime defender. We'll let Jerry Jones sink or swim at outside corner. Monteric Brown is the guy they like, so like he's our insurance policy there. Savage will deal with that safety. We pay Jordan Lewis to be a good, solid slot corner, so we're just gonna let him sit there. You come in and dime and just kind of help us out. And you tell me the math on this. What would you rather? I think I know based on what you said, but let's put some numbers to it. What's better for Jacksonville in 2025? Being the 12th best offense and the 20th best defense? If Travis Hunter is a full-time outside corner and part-time offensive player, or the eighth best offense and the 25th best defense. Let's project a little bit of correction on the defensive side. Defense is not super sticky year to year. So let's say they won't be the second worst defense again by EPA, but let's just say 25th. Let's say Hunter as a dime defender doesn't impact things all that much, but overall they're just a little bit better, a little new coaching staff, they're a little more energetic. Josh Hines Allen has a better as a comeback year a little bit. What ultimately helps them more, gets them more wins in 2025? 12th and 20th offense and defense, or 8th and 25th?
Man, I'm really trying to come to a quick determination because that is a tough conundrum.
Or do you think any of those numbers are too low? Do you think Travis Hunter plus BTG and Cohen and Hunter is that a top five offense? Am I
no,
not
no,
giving
no,
that
no,
enough
no, no.
credit?
I'm not gonna go that. Oh, I don't want to say overboard. I'm not that overzealous on the Jags as an offense with Travis Hunter as like a full time or close to full time player. I think that they kind of do top out around that. Like if Travis Hunter's on the field most of the time, from 10 to 8, somewhere in there, sounds about right. I guess in just for this year, I guess I would say probably the defense because I think because now I'm like turning on my initial standpoint on this, so you really got me where you want me. I think like Parker Washington was fine, and I guess like I did like him as an athlete coming out. He just wasn't as refined of a wide receiver,
Hmm.
especially not nearly as refined as Travis is as a playmaker coming out. That so much so that I guess like I weirdly think you could kind of make it work with Travis playing selected snaps and still be a top half offense if Travis is a part time player. And I like is the difference between being what was it like you I think you said the 14th best offense and the 8th or ninth best offense like that is not there is not a nominal difference between those two more than likely as much as being the I guess I would say what did you say 25th and
20th, I think.
14th
Hmm.
best defense, which that would be night and day, especially considering that the Jags were one of the worst pass defense last year. That going from maybe like bottom 3 pass defense to borderline top 10 pass defense would be tremendous for them. So, with that said, I do think that maybe I am kind of coming around to a different philosophy that maybe it is not one and the same where what I think will happen is Travis will primarily probably be a offensive player, but maybe it is better that it would be better for the health of the Jaguars in this season alone if he plays primarily defense. So you've convinced me. That's what I'll say.
So let's see the numbers I had. So here's last year's 20th best defense versus 25th best defense. We'll keep it pretty narrow. The Titans, and this is by EPA per play. The Titans were 20th in EPA per play, and they were at a, oh, I won't bore everybody with numbers, but they were in a positive for the defense sort of position. The defense was actually helping them win games last year. They were kind of right on the line of being one of the last teams to do that. The Saints were the 25th best defense, and they were just over the line of their defense was actually hurting them week to week. So that's the difference between that. And then if I go to Over here to offense. Let's see what the difference between 12th and 8th is. Do,
Let's do like
do, 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 do.
14th and 8th because 12th and 8th, I don't.
I think that might be a little high.
Yeah.
All right, 2024. So the eighth best offense last year was the Arizona Cardinals,
Okay.
which like you say that and you're like, gosh, I wasn't all that reliable week to week, and they were a terrible defense. They were
Yeah.
they were a bottom 670. So we're kind of seeing both ends of the spectrum there. And then the 14th best offense was the Rams.
Okay.
So obviously different situations. The Rams went through kind of a dry spell. They were just on the negative side of their offense, not actually helping them much throughout the regular season last year. The Cardinals were pretty far into the positive side of helping their team through the year. But like last year's Rams offense and Titans defense versus last year's Cardinals offense and Saints defense, I mean, gosh, framed that way, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rams, it's tricky, McVay and Stafford, like that's
Yeah.
any given Sunday kind of deal. But you get my point. That's where we're at. So, um, I ultimately don't think it's going to end up that way. I think Hunter's going to play mostly on offense. I think there's more names you're interested in from that defense than the wide receiver room because we kept coming back to Parker Washington as opposed to, Jerry Jones. Ooh, a draft pick we liked. Ooh, Jordan Lewis, we
Right.
paid.
Right.
Darnell Savage, we paid. Montaric Brown, ooh, interesting day three pick. Even if we just get into the safeties. Caleb Bransall, we just drafted.
Right.
Um, Andrew Wingard, who's been on this team forever, is now like a third string safety. So ultimately, I do think he ends up playing more on offense, but I really think it would be better for them to be on defense. But either way, I'm excited to see through training camp what they say he's doing, where he's aligning in those spots, who's behind him in those spots, and kind of what they're looking at and seeing how that goes through the year.